Okay, we'll call to order the Urban Renewal Commission for Wednesday, February 3rd, 2016.
And if you have your cell phones, please turn them off or silence them.
Forgot mine.
Roll call.
Commissioner Shaw?
Here.
Commissioner Polly?
Here.
Commissioner Benville?
Here.
Commissioner Holliday?
Here.
Commissioner Mengelberg?
Here.
Commissioner Van Haverbeek?
Here.
Chair Smith?
Here. And the first item up for agenda is 16-061, election of a chair and vice chair for 2016.
Move Derek Benville, chair for 2016.
Vice chair, is it? Chair.
No, chair.
Chair? Yeah.
We rotate it.
Oh, okay. Second.
Moved and seconded.
Any other nominee?
Is there any other nominations? Okay. We can call for the vote.
Commissioner Shaw?
Aye.
Commissioner Polly?
Aye.
Commissioner Benville?
Aye.
Commissioner Holliday?
Aye.
Commissioner Mengelberg?
Aye.
Commissioner Van Haverbeek?
Aye.
Chair Smith?
Aye.
Passes.
All right, and then we need nominations for vice chair.
I'd nominate Commissioner Shaw.
I second.
Any other nominations?
Again.
Okay, moved and seconded.
Commissioner Shaw?
Aye.
Commissioner Polly?
Aye.
Commissioner Benville?
Aye.
Commissioner Holliday?
Aye.
Commissioner Mengelberg?
Aye.
Commissioner Van Haverbeek?
Aye.
Chair Smith?
Aye.
Okay, trade chairs.
Do we want to move?
Yeah, it's over. It's over.
You're done.
Been a good ride, Rocky.
Yeah, it has. I'll see you guys later.
Oh, no, you don't get off that easy.
You're moving too, Commissioner.
Yeah, you got to move over here.
What? Oh, my God.
Yeah, I got to be away from it. Remember you always wanted to sit over there in the center?
No, I didn't. This is,
My water.
okay, thanks.
Thank you.
We need to do something different?
Okay.
All right.
Did I-
Now you're on this side.
Did I mess up?
Hey, I haven't been over here.
Yeah.
Really, it is far out. Isn't it?
Good to see you over here.
What'd you do here?
Uh-oh. Derek, God.
Probably screwed it up
We've
for
been
you.
here 1 minute and the whole computer system's going
Now you
down.
gotta sign in. Right?
Sign in, all
Oh,
right.
crap.
Okay.
And then if you go to agenda, that'll get you ready to go.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the staff report.
No, we're done with that. Citizen
No?
comments. There you go.
Okay. Do we have any citizen comments at all? Okay. All right. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Move to adopt.
Second?
Sorry.
Okay, we'll take a roll call.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Polly?
Aye.
Commissioner Shaw?
Aye.
Commissioner Holliday?
Aye.
Commissioner Mengelberg?
Aye.
Commissioner Van Haverbeek?
Aye.
Chair Benville?
Aye. Okay, moving to general business. Item number 16-058, the Cove Phase 2, Lot 1 proposal presentation.
Chair Beneville, if I could take a moment here while these folks are getting set up here. Way back when, I think you remember, I was working with Jerry Herman on the channeling project on the Clackamas and the Willamette, trying to create the channels a little better so we can get some bigger vessels
Is that
up.
like 1965?
65, and way back when, and we like, obviously with the Legacy project, we'd like to get larger vessels up there to visit and dock off at the courthouse and stuff. And so Jerry and I have been working on that, and in the meantime, we started looking at other things down there that could happen, and come to find out Gladstone was working on a project with the Portland the Portland Harbor Super Fund, and they got a bunch of money to take care of their what are we going to call that thing that's sticking out in the water down there, and so the Superfund's going to take care of that, and also the do some fish mitigation and stuff, and it's all being paid for. And I got to thinking, well, it'd be kind of cool if we could do something like that, take advantage of some of that money. So I put together a meeting of John Lewis and Tony, I think Eric, I don't know if you were there or not, and Ed Darrow came, and Jerry Herman, and I had something else go on all of a sudden, so I didn't get to make the meeting. But the meeting came up, and from that, there seemed to be some excitement generated on maybe there was something we could do in the Oregon City area for fish habitat and and some mitigation and stuff. And so that's how we came to be where we are here tonight. So, okay.
All right. Thanks for that, Brian.
Thank you, Chair. No.
Hey, Vice Brian.
Do you want me to give a brief introduction?
Yeah, so if you could,
Okay,
Eric,
yeah.
if you could do the staff report for this.
So, with that being said by Commissioner Shaw, Clackamas Cove LLC has requested an opportunity to present a new proposal for Lot 1 in Phase 2 of the Cove project. This would be converting Lot 1 from a developable lot to a natural habitat area or water quality area. With this proposal, it will also be requesting allocation of funds from the initial $745,000 that we've committed to this project to a feasibility study for the water quality area. So with that, I'll ask Mr. Ed Darrow and I'm sorry, John Runyon to present.
Well, it's good to be here again. My name is Ed Darrow, developer on the Cove, and John Runyon is with Cascade Environmental Group. And out of the meeting that Brian was talking about, we look at the issues, and one of the biggest concerns that I have had as the developer on the waterfront is what do we have for water quality? And when it came out that we had this algae bloom where you can't get in the water, you can't let animals get in the water. I mean, it basically kind of put things on hold, even though we've made such a substantial investment. So out of the process of reviewing things with John, working with the city, Jerry Herman was instrumental in going through and saying, all right, how do we fix this? So that was really the overall approach. And in working with staff, we review the different options that are available, and it's a very extraordinary thing that I think we have an opportunity to do. And the number one thing is that we need to do a feasibility study, which is John's background, and to figure out what are our alternatives and what are the options and how do we fix it. And I think that from our initial conversations and discussions, it's a very fixable thing. And the thing that's nice, as Brian mentioned, there's an opportunity, if we in fact define this correctly, do the feasibility correctly, that we can get support from other agencies to write a check to support this program. So what we've done is gone through the overall project and said, all right, where do we pick pieces that will in fact work, that could then go into this plan? This is our basic study area, is the whole area, but we kind of narrowed it down to Lot 1, the internal area, and just as a summary, you recall what we've got. We've got Lot 2, which is the current project, which should start in April or May. That's the 244 garden apartments. We have the waterfront units, which would be 225 units, which there's a possibility that we can actually start that this year. And then Lot 1, which is where we're saying let's look at it as an alternative use. And if you take the total areas that are potential to do a restoration and a wetland modification, we have number 1, which is Tract A, that is owned by the URC. Number 2, owned by the URC. Number 3 is a little water inlet, which is right there between the spit and Lot 1. And then the actual point there itself, number 4, that's about 3-5 acres. And then we have the peninsula. all of those have the potential of being incorporated into a mitigation program. Lot 1 is 4.45 acres. I think it's actually, we went back and looked at it, it's 4.44. And it could actually be utilized for mitigation by carving out part of it. What has happened under the DDA and under the processing of Phase 1, that's a borrow site right now. So there will, in fact, be a hole being dug there for both Phase 1 and Phase 2. And I'll ask John to just give a quick comment on what the potential is for that Lot 1 in terms of just modification.
So Lot 1 is low enough that you have the potential there to increase the connectivity with the aquatic area, improve habitat values there, create wetlands. So it could be a combination of wetlands, aquatic, riparian areas, essentially just improving the green infrastructure there. And that'll have a number of advantages. Obviously, one is it will be aesthetically nice. The other is it has the potential to improve water quality, because one of the things that drives those blue-green algae blooms are nutrients, phosphorus and nitrogen. And if you have wetland plants there, they suck up those nutrients, so that can help deal with that issue. So overall, I mean, obviously we're just putting out a conceptual idea right now, but there's a number of habitat attributes that could come out of that.
Going to the other next area, which is right contiguous, a little spit area, that is a total of, I think, 3.5 acres, and it kind of goes back towards Lot 1. That area could be incorporated, which would be a wetland area again. And the next one is saying there is this potential, and we did talk with the city of Gladstone. It was just with one of the chairperson of the Planning Commission, because the pump station, which is not being used now, that could have a potential of pumping like over 3 million gallons of water. And this is just, once again, it's an overview of a concept, not necessarily feasible, but could be, and that would be part of what the feasibility study would do. That could pump water directly in without a lot of cost into the cove.
From where?
The groundwater?
It comes out of the groundwater, which is basically coming from the Clackamas River. It's 3 different turbines that are down into the ground, and it's basically a well, and it pumps the water out. The reason that Gladstone quit using it because it had some contaminants in it. It's not for potable water, but it's certainly nothing that would hurt the cove.
Is that pipe existing?
The pump is existing. The pipe we would have to put in.
You're sure the pump is existing?
Yes, it's there. Whether it's functional is something that has to be studied.
Well, I want to be clear on one point, because my friend, Councilor Steve Johnson, is in the audience today from Gladstone, and he wanted me to make sure to say that the person you're talking to at Gladstone is not representing the city of Gladstone, only her own opinions, and she does happen to be the chair of the Planning Commission, but there have been no formal discussions either at the Planning Commission or at the City Council level on this subject.
Absolutely correct. And as we said at the outset, we need to do a feasibility study, and these are things that we're considering. There's been no formal contact with them other than the planning, and that was just really, what's there, what do we have in terms of property, and is there a possibility? The biggest thing that we're trying to accomplish this evening is saying, all right, here are all the options. Maybe not all of them work, but we want to investigate them and see what would be potential. And we certainly don't believe that there's any obligation on the part of Gladstone. There was never any intent to suggest that. The other item would be the actual dredging, and to figure that out on a very formal basis, we do have a dredging permit. We would want to update that as part of the feasibility study to make sure how that works. And then there is this other potential option, if you see number 2 there, which is the potential of some way penetrating the peninsula to bring water directly from the Clackamas. And that's either an open channel or doing something subterranean. And that would be part of the feasibility study.
So these are actually 3 different options.
There are several. There would be that, not only taking and doing the mitigation on the Lot 1, doing the center spot, there was basically going back, there are 5 areas where we could actually create mitigation. So those spots, Tract A is right as you come out of the McLaughlin. That is 1.34 acres. Originally, we had planned on doing a kind of a wetland thing there, which would have been primarily a monument entry with water flow and creating a very nice entry. We were asked why wouldn't we build on that. Once again, the road there is at 34. Lot 1 is at about 34 to 35. The Tract A is at about 34. All of them 18 to 15 feet below the floodplain. And that's the real issue on what's the alternative for Lot 1. And I'll kind of jump to that.
And I would add, in terms of the options, I think it's obvious that we would look at them individually, but also collectively, how would they work together?
This is the plat map for Lot 1. It has an elevation of about 33 to 35. The road is at 34. The water elevation is like 10. You go over the spit there, it's 32 to 40. None of these are really feasible for building. We did design, preliminary designs for an office building, and we did a design for a hotel to try to bring people to the table that would in fact do that. The biggest problem is that you have to build a 2-story parking structure. The 2-story parking structure is phenomenally expensive. They're about $60 a foot, and in this case, they would represent probably about $6 million to build that. The value of the dirt in this area is worth about $14 a foot. So it ultimately would show you that if you try to do that, you've got a negative over $3 million into the project. So it becomes a deduction to the value, and to bring somebody to the table to do that, they're not there. They will not do it. So it's not like we're giving up a production thing. I mean, I don't. If I could build this and build it out and own an apartment project there or an office building, that'd be great. But it's not It's not feasible.
Well, I think if you're talking apartments of people living there or a hotel, in a flood event, you're not going to be able to access the property.
The hotel is acceptable in a floodplain. A residential is not, because you don't have an out. You have no emergency exit. So you're correct. And these are just the concept. This was, I think this was a 132-unit hotel. It was 3 stories with the parking structure. So when you go through the numbers, this is the land itself, given that it has this requirement for the parking structure. And I have a complete set of separate numbers, but it's quite a complicated process. But this is a summary level. And to build the parking structure is it's almost $6 million. And then you take the value of the land at 14, that's about 2.7. So we end up with a negative value of about $3.5 million, and that's where that number comes from. So if you take that off a typical value of an office building in this area, that brings the value of the office building down to 9.7, which is there. And then taxes on that, at the tax rate for the URC in this property, about $121,000 annually. And if you say the net present value of 10 years into the future and bring that back to what it would be worth right now, is about $1 million. And we believe that under the mitigation approach that this concept could be worth about $200,000, and John has actually accomplished ones that are at 300,000 an acre. It would be worth $880,000 under, getting it approved for a mitigation project. So there's the numbers are pretty exceptional. This is kind of the overall area. We've got the water quality, which we will fix all the way around the outside of the cove. We got the new wetland creation, which would be Tract A. Then do a habitat program on Lot 1. Look at potentially putting some of the dredging material in that little inlet area and create a shallow water rearing area. The pump station was just off the top concept because we know it's there. And then take the spit area and make that a wetland area, do the dredging, and then the potential for a new channel. And if you have any comments on that, John, you certainly just jump in.
I guess one thing I want to add, in addition to the water quality issues, you do have endangered salmon and steelhead in the Clackamas River They do reside in the Clackamas Cove area, so certainly any sort of activities that you have that are within the aquatic area, within the ordinary high water area, are going to be closely scrutinized by National Marine Fisheries and the other federal agencies. This is a win-win opportunity here where you can enhance habitat for fish and enhance water quality all at once. Shallow water rearing habitat is the biggest habitat that's been lost in the lower Clackamas and in the lower Willamette area, and this is an opportunity to create those kinds of habitats. So it could be a real win for salmon and indeed for fishermen.
Mr. Runyon, can you do me a favor and explain to the commissioners kind of the concept, how we've come, how this market, what this market is,
Sure.
the easement theory, and briefly, but I think you just assume that they're not familiar with this type of a credit system, why it's created, the market that exists for it, how, the value of 200,000 per acre or 300,000.
Sure. Well, in brief, I think you're familiar in concept with what mitigation is. You have an impact in an area, for example, a new shopping center is being built, it impacts wetlands, and there are rules on the books through the Corps of Engineers and other federal agencies that if you reduce habitat values, particularly wetland values, you need to mitigate in kind for that. And there's a number of mitigation markets in the Portland metropolitan area. And the one that Commissioner Shaw talked about is the Portland Harbor Superfund. And that is mitigating for past damages from all of the pollution and the toxic waste in that industrial area within the Portland Harbor. And we're actually working on a project with the city of Gladstone in the sort of the northern part of Meldrum Bar Park. That will be a mitigation project for Portland Harbor Superfund, and that's where some of these valuations come into play. There's also other markets. There's for example wetland mitigation, and there's going to be, as you're well aware, more development in the Clackamas Basin. There's a real potential that could be one market that we could tap into with this. There's just one mitigation bank in the Clackamas, and it's starting to get tapped out. And so, as we look at the growth of these markets, we see a real potential there. There's also other potential mitigation. There's mitigation for fish habitat, a variety of things. So we would look at a whole range of potential mitigation markets out there that are available.
One of the unique things when this concept started coming together is that I went online and looked up these types of projects. There are so many areas from California all the way up here, even down in Salem, where they've taken old plants like this, where they've been doing all the dredging, and they've converted them to this kind of a program. So this isn't anything new. It's ongoing, and it's an extraordinary opportunity.
So when you talk about creating a new channel, are you talking about a buried culvert, or are you talking about actually opening a free-running channel?
We would look at various options. It might be a culvert. It might be a channel that is hardened in a way that it wouldn't, shift over time as you have flood events, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's my big concern there. Yeah.
But part of this too is we want to look at how you integrate in recreation with all of these activities, because I think that is important. We're talking about enhancing, obviously, the natural system here and the plants and everything, but recreation needs to be a consideration. So would you put a bridge there for the trail system? Would you allow a trail system in there? That would all be part of the feasibility.
Okay.
That's one of the things in going through this in the last few weeks is that decision points, from my point of view, is to not actually have formal marinas. Have marinas that could be for small craft. If we're going to create this landmark area for mitigation and for water quality, let's do that and do it right. Allow fishermen to come in there in their boats, but not have a marina that is going beyond small craft, where we have the Water Sports Center, which is planned over in the corner. I have talked with the sheriff. They've ran that up the pole. They said that they would need more information, but they're seriously considering giving us that. They told me they wanted $25,000. I said, we're not paying for it. what it is. It's a contribution to the Parks Department and to the city and a formal program for teaching kids water safety. So I talked to them again today, and they said, well, give us some time frames of when you'll need it. I said that we would do the retrofitting and modify it. We would move it, and that they could, in fact, share it because they still want to have a presence. That is very positive to me to have them there, and it's a good program.
One other thing that I want to add to, I guess, the mitigation market, Commissioner Shaw did a good job of describing the project that we're working with the Port of Portland and City of Gladstone on at Doll Beach, and that will include restoration at Doll Beach, removal of the bulkhead. The Port of Portland is actually the mitigating party for that. So sometimes you have interests that they just want to mitigate for their impacts. It's not selling credits to other parties and coming directly in, and that is another thing that we would look at here. And there may be ways that we could look at it in terms of this parcel would be for mitigation for a particular impact. This parcel would be for wetland impacts in the Clackamas Basin, so we can mix and match the range of things there. My firm spends a lot of time working with clients that are in need of mitigation, and we're seeing a real growth in that need throughout the Portland metropolitan area.
Could you also explain then the ownership and long-term maintenance?
The ownership is another thing that there are lots of ways to approach it. Working with the City of Gladstone, for example, the city will remain owners of those properties. There'll be a conservation easement on it. And in the case of the Portland Harbor Superfund site, there will be an endowment set up that will provide for maintenance of the site, taking care of trash, vegetation control, everything into perpetuity. So there'll be a sizable endowment that would go with that conservation easement that would cover all the maintenance.
And this is taking an optimistic view of that program, saying that we have a total of almost 17 acres, and at a value of $200,000, there's about $3.3 million there, and the cost of work, a guesstimate at $1 million, leaves us an endowment potential and for future maintenance of over $2 million. That's been an issue since this project started. How do we keep the water quality right? Who's going to write the check? Who's going to keep opening up the channel and clear that? This gives us an opportunity to create a fund that, in fact, could support that. So it's to me as a developer, not only being able to create this extraordinary area, and this isn't something that I have started doing. I've been doing it every project that I've done. Several of them over 35 acres per project, where we've created mitigation areas, enhanced it for food for the habitat. So this concept should have hit the ground a lot earlier. If it hadn't been for the algae bloom, I didn't think that we had a problem with the area. But this gives us the ability to create a sinking fund, if you will, or endowment that in fact can be used for the maintenance, and this is kind of an outline here, the newly created wetlands in the habitat area, the dredging, maintenance of the channel, if in fact that is feasible, and then making sure that the tracks that we're talking about utilizing, Tract A, Tract C, Tract D, and the peninsula, and then just the general water quality of the cove. Capital expenditures could include the refurbishing of the sheriff's dock, and that's something that's pending. And then a swim dock. We've got the existing piles there, which would be a natural for creating swim docks. And then this is something I threw in because all of us want to make sure that we have a completed project. One of the unique things about doing projects of this size is you need to create a visual window, a corridor. When you come into a project, you don't want to come in to see a road that's bad, that's not completed. Phase 1 is completing a lot of that main street, but it'd be nice to have it completed in total. So if we have resources that isn't an imposition on the city, isn't an imposition on us as a developer, we have extraordinary cost going in, that's on the table. Once again, these are summary levels, which in fact would be dealt through the feasibility program, and that's really what we want to get to, is being able to say we've got that kind of a program. And this is from, John, you might go walk through this. This is the path.
Is there a question?
have a
You
quick-
sensed my question. Go ahead.
You know, one of the main goals of the Urban Renewal District is to increase assessed value, and I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around how you're taking bare land and instead of putting a building on it, you're mitigating. I can't follow the money. So
Well,
can you help
let
me understand
talk to
that?
If you go back to the value approach, and I can back up here. One, if most people would look at it, would say it's not feasible. It's feasible if you build a two-story parking structure. If you take suburban office space in this area, it is about $14 a foot. You take that cost and you say, all right, we've got to build a two-story parking structure, be able to even put anything there. And the unique thing about that, and we have done, I think, 3 projects where we built in the floodplain, and we built parking structures for residential. This particular property, if in fact you say, what's the cost of building a two-story parking structure, it's about $6 million. And the price of the dirt in this area, and I had called brokers here, I had called Brian Kelly, who's with the appraiser that appraised the property originally, it's about $14 a foot. So now you've got a piece of property that is less than the cost of building this structure. So you have to say, all right, we have to reduce that and come up with a negative value for the dirt. It becomes a negative value. When this project, we were invited into it 9 or 10 years ago, we had an appraisal done, and the overall project had a negative $12 million. And that's when we walked through it and said, all right, we can fix that, but to do that, we'll need support of the URC. So that was how we were fixing this. In this case, we're saying it has such a negative value that we're not going to get anybody to come to the table. We've tried. We did preliminary designs on both the hotel and the office. That's not feasible. So if in fact it's not feasible, how do we turn it into something that's a positive for the project? How do we make it, an extraordinary, environmental area? Not only that, when you looked at those numbers, we have $2.3 million to keep the quality of the cove and to maintain these mitigation areas. So to me, it's an exceptional opportunity. I was not aware of this potential for creating these kind of credits or this kind of mitigation funding. But in doing that, it takes the burden off of you, it takes the burden off of me, and we keep the project. Right now, if you said, will you build a project if you know it's going to have that problem where you can't let a dog get in the water or individuals, I can't do it. Anybody that comes to the table with me in terms of lenders will say this is a major negative. How you can't get it done. So we need to fix it, and this is the way that we believe we can actually get it fixed.
So to kind of answer Commissioner Mangelberg's question, the value then, is that the value of what like a park would be, or is it the value, the taxable value? How? Because I mean that's a great.
It's
question.
Imaginary value.
Right. Well, right.
It's much like cap and trade in that projects like the Port of Portland Superfund or the Port of Portland or other things. Somebody in some office somewhere has set a range of values for this mitigation. And so then the developers can sell once they've done the mitigation, they can sell those credits back and get the money. My big question, I think, is who owns it at the end of the day?
Well, you can talk to that. There's a couple of ways to do that.
Again, it can remain in public ownership, and there, as Ed said, a number of ways that you can approach that. But certainly, there are plenty of examples out there where it remains in public ownership. You have an endowment that covers the maintenance. You still can allow recreation on trails through those areas, that sort of thing.
So do we currently own all of those spaces now?
Yes.
The Renewal Commission does.
Yes, I'll go back to that area.
Except for the
So
Gladstone.
in sense, it would be a
Except
park.
for the
or-
quarter acre that Gladstone was.
Yes.
I think when another way to look at it is what's the value in terms of the opportunity for having a healthy
Right.
water body for recreational fishing, swimming, as well as the investment that we're making in waterfront facilities. So,
Environmental
I think there's
value,
it's more of an intrinsic value to the community rather than a numerical value to increment created for the district, which is the discussion you guys need to have.
The related part of that is the waterfront project is $65 million. That's your increment. If we don't fix the water quality, we don't have that. I mean, that's the way I look at it, and that's a major tax benefit to the URC. So you do own all of these pieces. Originally, I was told that number 4 there, the little peninsula area, the Spit area, that was owned by Gladstone. I had a title report run, and they do own a portion of it, which is 0.45 acres. The rest of it is owned by the Urban Renewal Commission. So all of these combined areas, I mean, you could say, well, just take one area and do it, but when you put this whole mass opportunity together, and in working with John, is that, it's not like doing one little mitigation thing. You're creating an extraordinary happening here, and it helps, raise the bar on the project. It helps raise the bar on the quality, and it makes a unique statement that this city is backing extraordinary mitigation programs. So that's kind of the drill.
So I guess I'm wanting to understand the ask. Are you asking the city or the Urban Renewal Commission to donate this land for mitigation purposes? Are you asking the city to foot the cost of creating this wetland mitigation bank?
No. Let me go back to these numbers here. What we're asking the commission to do is keep the property, put up $50,000 of what already has been agreed to under the DDA, which is $745,000. Reduce that by 50, which becomes a burden to me to not have that for future infrastructure. To me, this makes the project move forward. So we would be asking the commission to support $50,000, keep the property. We do the feasibility study, we understand it, and then ultimately we create this package which is marketable for mitigation to third parties to resolve what they've already done wrong. So it looks like to me, if these numbers are valid, and I've gone through them consistently with the John, that we could potentially create a little over $2 million to not only keep the cove right, keep the mitigation right, keep the dredging done. Under the DDA right now, it says that the city would put up to $150,000, 50-50, that I would do the other part. This takes that burden off of us. It keeps the cove exceptional. So it really, if you really get into it and can understand it, it's exceptional. It's an unbelievable program, and I am so happy to have worked with John, and I'll have to give Jerry and Brian credit for saying, here's this potential. It took me about 3 weeks to get my arms around it to really understand it, and I went, oh my God, this is spectacular. So really, the commission would not be giving up the dirt. I mean, if something happened in the future or there was some extraordinary way to build on it,
Well,
on it.
forget that. Once you do that, it becomes a park. I'm telling you right now.
Because ultimately, part of the whole master plan is, and I thought as part of the master plan and the design of the hotel was, the balance, cut and fill. I mean, you're in a wetland area, and you have now is the only time you can do any borrowing of dirt anywhere in that park. So after this, you're screwed, right? I mean, it will be a park or a wetland no matter what.
Well, even if it wasn't, it will.
And that's true. Once you make this kind of commitment,
Right.
it's committed. But by committing, you have an endowment, you have the maintenance covered. I've worked with the Parks Department here enough to know that there's not enough funding to even keep the North Park right, which is the amphitheater. So we've got a way to create a resource which in fact backs up the concept.
The question is the $995,000 cost of work. Is that part of your as part of the DDA as your obligation?
No, that if in fact we can create those credits, which is the 3,064,000, that would be used to do the actual final design and do the implementation of the work. So that's the program.
So you'd sell the credits before you did the work, or is it the other way around?
Well, you tell me to make sure.
So we work with firms that provide capital for that sort of thing under speculation that they will sell the credits later. So, for example, they'll provide that funding that would complete all of the necessary permits and everything to go through the agency process, the design, and the construction of it.
So where's their cut?
What?
Where's their cut? I mean, you go back to that slide of 3,364,000, and then you've got minus the cost of the work. Is that in the cost of the work? Is their cut in the cost of work?
There could be a cost for them to do that, and so we use conservative numbers for the value of the credits. They could be more than that, and so it could be that extra increment then that could be their cut. Again, what we're proposing is to look at that and to lay out those various options.
Okay.
The potential, there are three potentials for providing the capital. One would be CCLC, which is me. The other is the commission to provide the $995, and then selling it to third parties. If the commission does it, then that $2,300,000 is net to the project. So that to me would be the best option, and that's not something that I'm asking you to make a decision on or saying this is what we're going to do, but that's an option that we would actually study as part of the feasibility.
Do we have $1 million, Wyatt?
He's awful pale over there.
Commissioner Holliday. Thank you, Chair Benville.
It's a simple question.
It is. I think. You know me. I think, like you, I think complex about the issue. Do we have $1 million? Sure.
Okay.
Is the question, would we use it for this project? That's the
Well, that's
complicated
another
part.
question. I just didn't want to have a whole lot much longer discussion about that if we didn't have the money. So
The nice thing is this shows the money coming back. So it's not like you're investing it and not getting it back. And
I fully agree.
Another model would be that the agency and the developer split, come up with an agreement that out of the profits that are created once the endowment's set up, the money's split. So there's multiple ways that this could be financed, and that would be something that we would look at.
So this would be a question to staff. Do we have a lot of wetlands in the city to mitigate?
We have a lot of, through our projects,
Through the city, are there lots of wetlands that need mitigation? I mean, if we're creating a wetlands mitigation bank, is this also a benefit to the city as a whole?
not that I can think of off the top of my head. We've traditionally dealt with mitigation associated with a project concurrently with that project.
Is there any possibility for the necessity of mitigation at Blue Heron?
There's always that potential. We see Blue Heron as an opportunity also for habitat and restoration opportunities. So I think it depends on what that final design looks like. But to think that we're going to make the existing situation worse there is hard to imagine currently.
So what's the ask? What's the ask tonight? What?
The ask tonight is: do you have any questions? We can come back. We probably have to, if this is something the commission's interested in, we can meet in executive session to talk about how the DDA needs to be amended to incorporate this. If there are questions that have come up, we can either try to address those tonight, or we can come back to you in 2 weeks and address those questions at that time, unless everyone's comfortable to move forward.
Basically, the ask is moving forward with the feasibility study, which gives you the basis for understanding it. And then ultimately coming up with that and then coming back with all of the options that are available.
I'd make a motion to direct the Urban Renewal Agency Director to move forward with this possibility.
Second.
I do have a question, though.
Hmm?
Is Do I have time to do that?
You're the chair. You can do whatever you want.
Well, I mean, now that there's a motion on the floor, but is there a certain amount of cost that we're obligated to provide for this feasibility study, which was
They're
$75,000 or something?
asking 50,000.
50,000.
The 745 that's already been allocated to the project, so it would be
Okay.
taken from that 745.
Got it.
There'd be
Leave
two
it.
modifications to the DDA. Number one, that the option for us to take it down at $10, which was the option of the DDA to build it. And the other is to modify the 745,000, which was for infrastructure, reduce that by the 50,000, so you're not allocating other monies. And I was asked by Tony, is that going to stop me from doing the project? It will not stop me from doing the project, so it's a resource.
See, that answered my second
That was the
question.
next one, yeah.
Is this holding up starting construction in April or the spring or summer of this year?
There's two programs. The 244 units is the plan to start in April.
Okay.
The second phase, which is the waterfront, 225 units, that if in fact we can get things done, that could potentially start. There's a high probability that we won't get there just because of this additional work. We're not tying this to the Planning Commission or to the URC or to the processing it. This would be run independently. Whenever I've done projects that are on the water, and I've done 8 of them, we always save getting into the water as the last item. It can take a lot of time. So this will be run in parallel, but will not be a serious thing that it can stop the project.
I would just bring the chair's attention that we spent 47 minutes on this, and we're supposed to be in executive
Yep.
session right now.
In fact,
so-
I pointed that out, my concern with the agenda to begin with. So.
Yes.
Anyways, okay. Will you take a vote, please?
Commissioner Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Polly,
Aye.
Commissioner Shaw,
Aye.
Commissioner Holliday,
Aye.
Commissioner Mengelberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Van Haverbeek,
Aye.
Chair Benville.
Aye.
So just so I have clarity, we will be working to amend the DDA to reflect an addition, the $50,000 and reducing the 745. Is there a need for an executive session on this item, or would you just like it to bring it in general meeting?
Sorry,
The two changes seem pretty simple if that's what everybody would like.
I don't know. So what do you think? I mean, it's.
Leave it
General meeting
to my discretion. If
Yeah.
something comes up, we'll bring it in an exec session. Otherwise, we'll put it on for general discussion.
I think so.
Sounds
I
good.
agree with that.
Yeah.
And to clarify, the commission is directing the city manager to proceed with negotiating through the contract amendments as he sees fit, in case something else should come up.
You talking about the DDA?
Yeah.
Only on
So
the
the-
feasibility study, not on like, the
Only on the
whole-
feasibility study, but
Right.
For
consider
now,
all
one thing
options.
could be tied to another that's tied to another, so we'll focus on that. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Very good. Thank you for taking the extra time. I think it's really important. So.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, moving on to the next item. PUB 15-047, Singer Hill Road Deed of Dedication. Staff report, Eric?
It's Mr. Lewis.
Oh, yep, okay.
So this one, sorry, I was thinking this was on the consent agenda. So basically, we're asking you to adopt the Oregon City Deed of Dedication for Singer Hill Road. Turns out that you authorized some survey work to happen on 10th and Main, and as a result of that, there was a discovery that a good portion of Singer Hill was on private property. So this deed of dedication dedicates that as public right-of-way and leaves the remnant for sale, available for sale as a property transaction. So this cleans that up. Singer Hill Road won't be part of the lot at 10th and Main, and we'll be able to move forward with plans for that.
You guys got a toll booth there.
Yeah. So to me, this
We've
is
already
pretty
got a toll
straightforward.
booth there. It's called Dutch Brothers.
The mental toll booth.
Okay, any questions?
So I just want to add, once this is approved, this will be recorded in the final survey. So the surveyor's waiting on this. It'll be clean and
Move to approve PUB 15-047, Singer Hill Road Deed of Dedication.
Second.
Okay, vote please.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Polly?
Aye.
Commissioner Shaw?
I think I'm too far away here.
Please.
Mr. Shaw?
Aye.
Commissioner Holliday?
Aye.
Commissioner Mengelberg?
Aye.
Commissioner Van Haverbeek?
Aye.
Chair Benville?
Aye. Okay, consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right. Vote please.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Polly?
Aye.
Commissioner Shaw?
Aye.
Commissioner Holliday?
Aye.
Commissioner Mengelberg?
Aye.
Commissioner Van Haverbeek?
Aye.
Chair Benville?
Aye. All right. Any future agenda items?
I would at some point like to talk about systems development charges and if there's some way to offer reduced charges to encourage mixed-use development or affordable housing in our urban renewal area.
SDCs come under the purview of the City Commission, not under the Urban Renewal Commission, correct?
So it would be like an urban renewal offset of SDC charges, like a incentive, so to speak. That would be another way to go.
I'm interested in talking about that.
Sure.
So using urban renewal funding to pay down an SDC.
Correct.
It's a concept.
Be good for discussion.
Yeah. All right, any other future agenda items? Okay, city manager's report?
I have nothing to add tonight.
Okay, sounds good. I think we're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thanks.